It's really wonderful to have the opportunity to be with everybody today. As it was mentioned, it's different, right? Normally what we would be doing is we'd be loading you in vehicles or on a bus or some mode of transportation, and actually driving around and going inside and seeing the agencies firsthand and listening to the staff and possibly even some individuals, some recipients of the services. But short of that, we're really thankful to have some guests with us today from our agencies. We've got Sean Sargent from Lionhearts, and give a little wave there, Sean. And we've got Danny Millen from Home Base Housing, and Lindsay McDonald from Dress for Success. So what we were hoping to do for you is to give you a bit of a broader perspective in terms of the types of programs and agencies that funding that's raised through our annual campaign and through generous donations from our workplaces and individuals in the community help to support. So, I mean, really, when you think about it, pretty much anything in the social services sector, when it comes to needs, is supported through funds that are raised through United Way. We kind of categorize them in three different areas. So we've got helping kids be all that they can be. We've got strong and healthy communities, sorry, and then from poverty to possibility. So what we tried to do today is just sort of touch on some aspects of each of those areas and give you a sense of the great work that's done in our communities through the local agencies and programs and services that are supported. And, I mean, when we think about in general, our community overall, we are so fortunate that we have such a caring and giving community. And in 2019, there were 59,000 people that were helped through funds raised and programs served locally in Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington. Well, COVID has kind of thrown a bit of a hitch into all of our lives. But again, the generosity of our community is absolutely amazing. And with funds that have been raised through COVID funding this year so far, there have actually been 42,000 people helped, like in the first 4 months. That's absolutely incredible. What that also says is that there's a great need in our community. And there's always been need in our community, but COVID has helped to really sort of bring the needs of our most vulnerable to the forefront. So one of those issues in particular has been the need for food security. And we saw that right off the bat when we were working closely with our agencies and just trying to help to understand what they were dealing with in the face of COVID. Volunteers weren't able to come into agencies anymore in many cases. Face-to-face client services were really put on a stop and a standstill for a period of time, but that didn't stop the need. In fact, it actually let us know that the need was even greater. So on the topic of food security, I think what I'd like to do is hand it over to Sean, and he can tell you a little bit about the organization and types of programs that they deliver, maybe what it was like before COVID, maybe what it's like now since COVID. How does that sound?
Sounds great, Kim. Thanks for the introduction, for sure. It sure is a privilege to be here with everyone today. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your day just to find out a little bit more about what's going on here in our community. And for us, that actually started about 6 years ago. Lionhearts decided that we needed to take a look at how we could get food from people who had it to the people who needed it. Sounds pretty simple, but it's not as simple as that sometimes. For us, it was about logistics. It was about taking really large bulk donations of great food and actually taking it and putting it into the hands of those who are using it on a regular basis in manageable amounts. So if you're looking at hundreds of pounds of strawberries showing up one day, not one agency could use it, but divided over 32 different agencies across the city, it was a huge thing to be able to add into their already difficult budgets. So that was where we started. That was 6 years ago. That first year, we actually rescued $484,000 worth of surplus food here in the region. And last year, in 2019, it was $2.3 million worth of food. This year, COVID year, we've actually done $3.1 million worth of food distribution, but things took a bit of a turn in March. March 16th, we were doing great. Everything was ticking along. March 17th, we got the order to have everything close. That lockdown, when the Prime Minister came on and said, stay home, it had a really dramatic effect on the actual local residents here in Kingston, as you all know, because part of you were here and impacted for sure. But those who were food insecure found themselves at a place where there was nothing available to them. They couldn't go anywhere and get anything for help. We went from delivering on a regular basis to 32 different agencies down to 4. It also came at a time where a lot of restaurants, hotels, catering companies, institutions were now having to close and had a lot of extra food. It's actually one of the first times we ever received lobster and steak in our program. It was actually kind of fun to distribute that, let me tell you. But it also posed another problem. Is how do we actually get good food to folks now that there were a lot of those agencies not able to do what they were doing? And so that next day, we figured out a way to actually serve a few meals. And that first day was 37 meals. 9 days later, it was 200 meals. And we realized that we actually were not going to see a stop to this. And here at Lionhearts, we're all volunteers. We really hadn't served meals before. So we had to reach out to find some folks that sort of knew what they were doing. And very much thanks to the United Way and the resources that they had and that nimbleness, that response that was almost near instant, they were able to help us with some logistics. They were able to help us with resources and finances to make sure that people were not going to go hungry. And I'm going to show you a little bit of a video now. I think Sophie's got it all loaded up there as to how that looks. And this video was actually taken in June, so it's a while ago, and the numbers are all wrong, but we'll cross that bridge here in a few moments.
Food Distribution Center. This is ground zero for everything that Lionhearts does. So follow me, we'll go take a look. So the gym has been set up for a couple of months now in order to prepare meals and food packages for the folks at the 4 different locations that Lionhearts has served during COVID-19. So what we have here is we have 13 tables that are set up in groups of 25. The morning shift that comes in at 9:30 comes in to start the preparation of the red bags. The red bags contain some of the essential items that are distributed at the park, at KCHC, at Amherstview, and in Napanee. So they come in the morning and they place a utensil in the bag. We've got food items from Cobb's Bakery that Cobb's donates to us. That goes into the bag also. We always provide a bottle of water in every bag. And there is also a care package that volunteers here at Lionhearts puts together. So that is what our morning crew does. They come in and they set up this bag. Our afternoon crew, who just finished for today, goes to the kitchen, checks our boards over at the back there to see how many meals we need for the day. And they will put in the actual meal that comes in a plastic container, and they pop it into the bag, tie up the bags, and then these bags, 25 on each table, get packed into these Rubbermaid totes. And I don't know if you can see behind me, but there is a whole lot of totes. It's a whole lot of plastic here, but this is what everything gets packed into. 12 bags go into each tote. These totes are then packed by the 5 o'clock crew that comes in specifically to pack the truck that will go down to McBurney Park. What seems like garbage bags are actually clothing items that have been donated to Lionhearts through Kingston Street Mission. Those items will get sorted and then will get put into the bins. The bins will go downtown to the park, where folks that grab a meal can also ask for clothing items, the hygiene, the masks, whatever we have. As long as we have it, we're happy to offer it to the folks that are there. We do buy in bulk, as you can imagine. If we've got about 700 meals that we serve a day, We do buy in bulk from a couple of different locations here in Kingston. So we've got bulk oatmeal, we've got fruit stations, applesauce, fruit cups, granola bars. It all comes to the gym. From here, we do send it out to 2 other locations where they will pack their own red bags. They will take care of what they need to put together for their site. And that's what a basic day in Lion Hearts looks like. So last I heard, we were probably around day 155. 83,000 meals have been served. So Lion Hearts would like to thank the United Way for their very timely response and their generous contributions so that we could get up and running here at Ground Zero when COVID-19 arrived to Kingston, and we were all so quickly dispatched in different ways to do different things. We at Lion Hearts thank you, United Way, for your help in helping us help our community.
And Bina had some great numbers there, but I just realized afterwards that it's actually been a few months. And I think the number that I saw recently, last 2 days ago, was just over 155,000 meals that have been served since the start of the pandemic. So we're serving almost 800 meals a day on average. Some days, obviously, closer to the end of the month, there's a lot more, and closer to the beginning of the month, it's a lot less. So that's the sort of the process that happens there. Again, it's been a tough year. We know that it's not coming to an end, and it's been the community as a whole that has actually made all of this possible. It's hard to say that, you know, we could be able to feed the entire population of the city that is actually, you know, looking for food. But I have to admit that it was something that we didn't think was possible, but we were pleasantly surprised by the outpouring of support from the city of Kingston. And I think it has a lot to do with everyone just digging a little deeper this year. And we're just here to say thank you and to ask you to consider that.
That's terrific, Sean. And I mean, you know, when we talk about everybody pulling together, and Lion Hearts is an organization that has been so instrumental in helping, particularly the meal provider and food network organizations in our community, really to support one another. When we think about meal programs, like I was mentioning, where you know, people can't go inside, and so they've been so creative and just like turn on a dime, and yourself as well, going into the parks to provide meals. And maybe you can talk a little bit more about sort of the, in addition, like where are you actually serving the meals and programs?
Well, yeah, for sure. We still are serving a couple of locations outdoors, but this last couple of weeks has actually been a little fun, a little bit easier on our park crew, because it's just actually moved indoors to Stages nightclub. So it's changed things a little bit. And it was interesting because my day job is as a computer tech, and we actually have our executive director who is a musician, and we actually have our board treasurer who is actually a retired Padre from the military. So you can start to see the beginnings of a joke where you say a priest, a drummer, and a computer tech walk into a bar, right? But it was a very interesting, and it just really sort of gives you an idea of how much the community has really stepped up. Whereas bar owners are saying, hey, you know, we're not using our space. Why don't we do something for the community? And that's a really big expense to them. They're not asking for anything for help, but just a little bit of extra for some of the things that you would associate with additional costs of utilities and things like that. So for them to come forward and say, you know what, we'll take the risk, liability, all those things just to make sure that people can get fed, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jessica and Cindy, I'm just wondering, do folks want to ask questions sort of before we move through all of the speakers? How do you guys want to do that?
I think that would be helpful if we just want to open it up to questions kind of for each speaker, and then we can move on after that.
Yeah, and people are most welcome to take, you know, to put them, take themselves off and stop video, and you can enter something into the chat or raise your hand. You have a question? See any?
Sean, I have a quick question. How many volunteers are you working with?
I just checked the list actually the other day. You're at 213 right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Are there, obviously monetary donations are helpful and your partners, but I was intrigued by the clothing feature in the video. Are there other things that, do you always work with another partner organization, or do you guys receive donations directly?
So we, as part of the pandemic planning, have been receiving things through other partner agencies. Things like socks, winter mitts, those two things we could never get enough of, that's for sure. And they know right now, I think starting actually in a couple of days, the Starbucks location up at the mall is going to start collecting things there. And I think you get I think they get free coffee if you donate something up there. So it's a pretty good deal. It's hard for us to just take things directly at the door just because of the protocols that are there. But definitely those things are in high demand. We've had some really great opportunities to explore some partnerships with some of the other organizations in town. Giant Tiger has been amazing at just sourcing things at next to nothing cost-wise for us in terms of socks and mitts. Toques I think we had 244 brand new, beautiful winter toques donated by Daft Breweries too. So there's a few other organizations out there doing some pretty neat things to collect for us. The United Way did an enormous coat drive this last couple of weeks, and I think they're going to do another one later in December or January. I'll have to check the dates. I should know that.
December 7th until the 18th. Again, it's showing the partnerships, right? So there'll be bins at Leon Center, so folks can drop off winter clothing items. And again, with the support of Lionhearts, we're able to have volunteers from other community organizations pick those donations up and then take them to Lionhearts to sort through and then to be able to give them back out to the community. So again, more coats, gently used or new boots, hats, toques, mitts, socks, everything and anything you can think of, really. Food, Partners in Mission will have food bins there as well. Yeah. Any more questions for Sean before we move on?
What would be the best way, other than when the United Way or a partner agency runs a collection site, like you mentioned Starbucks and the coat drive, what would, other than those specific times, what would be the best way to donate things like that?
Right now, we don't have a process other than through those kinds of things.
Okay, so keep your eye open for those.
Yeah, definitely. The other option too is St. Vincent de Paul. They're accepting donations right now, and they're a wonderful organization. They're doing a ton of great work as well. The Salvation Army, their thrift shops are accepting some things as well. So anything you actually get, we all work together quite a bit. So if there's things that are donated in one place that can't be used directly, then they get distributed through the whole network pretty quickly. We've got 3 vans on the road every day. So we're between all those different agencies, and it's really neat to see how they're like, hey, we have extra of this. And we put it in the van, and it's amazing how quickly that gets snapped up by somebody else.
Yeah.
That's
Great.
awesome. Thank you.
So maybe we'll move on now to Lindsay. Lindsay's with our Dress for Success program. Speaking of needs, Lindsay, do you just want to talk a little bit about the organization and the programs, and then we have another video for you guys to take you on a bit of a tour as well.
Sure thing. I think that's best. Like Sean mentioned, our video was made months ago, and so our program has changed a little bit. Things looked differently back in June when the video was made. But Dress for Success has been in the Kingston community since 2013. The Dress for Success program helps women specifically with clothing support specific to interviews, employment, education, or placement opportunities. I talk about this in the video a little bit, if I remember it correctly. But, with COVID, we certainly hit, and that March 16th date that Sean already mentioned, it sticks in my mind. It seemed like a normal morning heading to work, and it quickly changed by the afternoon. And March 17th, we were closed. So given the nature of our program, so we provide clothing for people for, work and education, and we're really about empowering women to look and feel their best so that they can go out and put their best foot forward in an interview. And the idea behind that is that they become support systems for their families. So more than 50% of our clients are single mothers. They need to be employed. They need to be making money in order to provide for often their children or themselves, just depending on the situation. And so when COVID hit, we had to close down. We weren't necessarily deemed essential. We weren't food security. We weren't emergency service, like warm clothes for outdoors, that kind of thing. And we weren't housing supports. So it was a bit challenging there to say, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? But the reality is that we have a whole client base whose circumstances also changed that day. So a lot of our existing clients lost their jobs that they had, used Dress for Success as a stepping stone to maybe get. And they found themselves unemployed. And they also some found themselves very isolated with limited access to technology, and also unable to navigate government funding programs. So, we saw a lot of our clients say, like, I heard there's this CERB, but I don't know how to do it. I don't have a computer to access it. And so for March, April, and May, we spent a lot of our time on the back end just helping our clients and anybody who reached out to us just navigate the support systems that were out there. So when Sean, I love that you talked a lot about how we do work together. It was really about getting that list, that community list that the United Way really connected us to, and getting it to our clients. And we hosted, and we still host, weekly Zoom chats and connections virtually for our clients, because we really felt like there was a gap there. People weren't out necessarily interviewing or looking for the job, they were losing jobs. So it was sort of like, how do we pivot? I hate to use that word again, I've used it too many times, but how do we sort of figure out what our connection is to other community supports? And then in May, I got an email from a woman who said, I have a job interview next week, June 1st, I think was June 1st or 2nd was her job interview. And she said, I don't know if you're open or you're operating, but I really need some clothing. And I said, we're not open yet. I wrote her back via email. I said, but if you send me your sizes, like, I can go to our boutique and pull some clothes. And she said, oh, that would be amazing. I've got to go to this interview. I don't have anything to wear. I'm really hoping to get this job because I haven't been working. And then I thought to myself, how am I going to do? Like, I don't even, like, how old are you? Without laying eyes on somebody, how do I pick clothes for someone? So I wrote her back and I said, hey, we've never done this, and no other Dress for Success affiliate in North America has done this, but can we meet virtually? Like, can we do a virtual suiting? And I said, I don't know if it's going to work, but I can't promise the best, outcome, but would you be willing to try? And she wrote back right away and she said, I would be so excited to be a guinea pig. Just tell me when and where. So I met her over Zoom, and we set up a laptop and speakers and some racks so that we could show her clothes virtually. And we were the first Canadian affiliate for sure to do a virtual suiting. And it was so good. It was very effective. And it definitely broke down the barrier we were facing of not being able to meet in person. So that's sort of how we got back up and running, because we quickly saw it was a quiet summer. Women still weren't out looking for jobs the way they are today. So things have shifted even this fall. And a big reason for that was kids were still in school, kids weren't in school. And so until the kids went back to school, a lot of our client base, again, single mothers, high percentage of single moms, they didn't have an option to go back and go to work. Maybe even thinking about going back to school in September was overwhelming. And so we supported virtually most of the summer. In August, we started seeing clients in person. September was still a bit slow. So we found ourselves still looking to other agencies, directing our clients and some of our women reaching out to us, not specifically for clothes for interviews or employment, but rather, I'm struggling with food this month. My CERB benefits have run out. What do I do? I'm feeling isolated. So we continue to offer those supports. And then October came around. And once we saw children back in school for a few weeks, starting in September, things started to really shift. And we have been run off our feet. I am at home today because I couldn't run this meeting from our boutique because we are so booked back to back. And of course we have capacity. We can only have so many clients in the door. We don't have a big space. We're booking 3 weeks out now. We have never had to book 3 weeks out. So we're seeing probably 20 to 25 clients a week, depending on the week. And we're full now for the next 3 weeks and booking beyond that. We used to be able to slide a client in within a day or two because there would be slots available and volunteers available. And so this is definitely, I think it's a great sign in our community of what is happening and what's shifting, and hopefully people are going back to work and it stays on the upswing a little bit. It doesn't reduce the fact that there is so much need out there still, and this pandemic is still ongoing. But we're starting to see women sort of get up and come out and they're looking for work. And that is because kids are in school. I'm pretty sure that's sort of the shift that we've needed. We can show the video. What's great is that you'll see our space. It's designed and set up like a store so that our clients feel like they're coming into a really personal shopping experience rather than, because our program is all about empowerment, rather than they're just going to get anything that we can just throw in a bag for them. It really is tailored, and we cater to their one-on-one need with a one-on-one suiting stylist. So it's neat to see the video, but again, some things are probably outdated. We're doing a bunch of stuff still virtually if they can't get in to the boutique, and that's how we're sort of managing helping outside of the direct Kingston community as well. So we will support clients just outside of there.
Awesome.
You want to roll the video? Hi there, and welcome to Dress for Success Kingston. My name is Lindsay McDonald, and I'm the Executive Director here at Dress for Success. I'm so sorry I can't be with you in person, telling you about our great program, or even hosting you here inside the space to show you around. But I'm grateful for this next best option and that I can share with you what we do today. Here at Dress for Success, we've been in operation since 2013 with the support from the very beginning of the United Way. They have supported us from the first day to help us to opening our doors, to building a board, looking at different options and helping us provide further programming year after year. Without the support of the United Way and workplaces like yours supporting their campaign, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. What do? We serve women in the community who are facing barriers or challenges accessing clothing support specifically. You can see behind me all the clothes. For interviews, employment, placement, or education purposes. Clients are referred into our program, and once they're here, they're partnered up with a one-on-one suiting stylist to help them find the right outfits or clothing specific to their needs and the jobs that they're looking for. The best way to really describe the impact is to tell you about Kim. We met Kim in 2014. She was actually one of the first clients I ever met working at Dress for Success. Kim was a single mom, starting college in the business program and looking for support on how-tos. She had little funds to support her clothing wardrobe and was finding that it was necessary that she look more business appropriate when attending school. These challenges while supporting a child on her own are huge. They can play off your lack of confidence. It makes you not feel great if you don't feel you look the part when going to certain interviews or placement opportunities. In Kim's situation, it was her first placement for college. Through the rest of her years in college, we supported Kim year after year with her needs. Seasonal changes to her work wardrobe, support with her son, and she eventually started attending workshops monthly that we started hosting here at Dress for Success to support things like financial literacy, nutrition supports, wellness and being, really well rounding out the reality that a lot of our clients are facing in the workplace, but also in their personal lives. Kim stuck with us. She then went on to graduate her program, decided to go back and take another program, and then found employment after graduating from that second program. Not only are we so proud of Kimberly, but we are so proud of the fact that our programs were able to support her from start to finish. Her son is thriving. She has now, I'm happy to say, come back, sits on one of our committees, supports our workshops herself, has facilitated a workshop for us, and is now an entrepreneur of her own. She no longer works for someone else, but runs her own business and is supporting her and her son by herself. Things like this and the success story of somebody like Kim is because we were able to connect with her early on, give her the supports and the confidence to make sure she believed she could do and make a difference in her own life. Sometimes it's not about the clothes. The clothes actually are just the vehicle we use to instill confidence and make sure a woman feels her best with any situation and they feel like they have full potential. Without the support of the United Way or workplace campaigns, we would not be where we are today. We've so far suited over 1,000 women in the Kingston community since opening our doors in 2013. In 2019, we suited 315 women, and the need is growing. Certainly after this year, the year of 2020 that it's been, we will definitely need more support, more funding, and we'll see the need increase to support women in our community with the programs that we offer. Thank you so much for your local love, for our agency, for the United Way. We are so grateful for your support. Okay. Thank you, Kim, for playing the video. That's definitely a snippet of what we do. A lot of it I had already said. Kim's real life, I talk to her on a weekly basis because she still supports our programs and shows up. And we have many other clients that have sort of been able to come full circle. So it's definitely a great example of how important it is. And now since COVID, the only other thing I will mention is Dress for Success talks about women in the community. I am the executive director for Dress for Success. For just under 2 years, I was a shared executive director for Dress for Success and Well Suited. And I will just plug them a little bit here. Well Suited is the exact same program as Dress for Success, but offers support to men. They have branched on their own. I don't work for Well Suited anymore, but I am a community champion of the organization. So there is, we often get asked, that's great, you do that for women. Is there an organization in the community that supports men? And the answer is yes, same program. They're right upstairs from us, called Well Suited.
Awesome.
So important to know. I know, Kim.
And I love how you say clothes are just the vehicle.
It's true.
Yeah, it really kind of puts things into perspective. Does anybody have any questions for Lindsay?
The same question that we had for Sean. Again, how do we get donations to you, Lindsay?
That's a great question, Jessica. So we are not, pre-COVID, we were open accepting donations twice a week on a weekly basis. We're streamlining it now. So we are running 1 day a month donation drop-off days. The next one will not be until the last Friday of January. I would even have to look at what that looks like or what the exact date is. And the reason for that is just to keep, the influx and the outflux to a minimum. And we're so busy that we're finding it difficult to the space is clear. We're not open to the public when we have clients on site. And that's just to keep it very private and personal. A lot of our clients have other maybe emotional barriers that they're facing or struggling with. So it's really important to us to keep the space. As you saw in the video, it's not a really big space. So yeah, last Friday of January, 845 Princess Street, we will be accepting donations for the day. And then again, we do work with other agencies. So, you know, if we hear of another agency that needs coats or toques, I know we sent a bunch of coats out for the coat drive that, you know, have been in our location for quite a period of time, that we'll pass them on. Socks, coats, hats, mitts, those kinds of things. And sometimes another agency will contact us and say, you know, we have a client, she's not looking for work quite yet. That's not where she's at in her journey, but she needs some good winter boots and a coat. Can you help? Or she just needs some clothing. Can you help? And we would never turn a client away for that.
Terrific.
Is there somewhere where we can find those dates?
Yeah, they aren't posted on our website quite yet. Right now, it still says we're not open for donation. So I just gave you inside information. But they will be posted to social media probably in December, as well as our website.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next agency we have on our Seeing is Believing tour is Home-Based Housing. Now, Home-Based Housing, Danny can certainly, you know, give you a brief overview of the organization overall, but it focuses on individuals experiencing homelessness, both adults and youth, as well as families. As I said, Danny can tell you a little bit more about the agency overall, but I think what we wanted to delve into today was to give you a bit of an insight into the issue of youth homelessness. Youth homelessness is something that's been the work collectively of our community for about 6 years now. And there's been a lot accomplished in terms of pilot programs and projects that have been created because, first of all, one of the things that we did was listen to the voice of youth and hear from them what they told us were factors that caused youth homelessness, and more importantly, what could be done to prevent youth homelessness. So, I mean, in general, not surprising, the three things that youth told us that caused them not to have stable housing in their own home and have to leave were family conflict, addiction and mental health, and not necessarily with themselves struggling with those issues, but often with others in their household or close to them. And then, of course, struggles to continue with education and employment opportunities. I mean, just imagine if you're bouncing from couch to couch, or maybe in a park, or having to live at a shelter or in transitional housing. It's pretty hard when you have that insecurity to focus on, you know, going to school and keeping your grades up when really all you can think about is how to survive and get that day in. So Danny, what do you think? Should we maybe show the video first, and then maybe you can talk a little bit more about the program?
Sure. Maybe I'll do a little introduction here, then we'll roll to the video and then follow up there if that works, Kim.
Great, sure.
And thank you very much for the segue there and the introduction. As Kim mentioned, I'm with Home-Based Housing with their youth services program, and I'm the coordinator of the supportive housing side of things. And also Kim had touched on the fact that we do work with, we have an adult shelter, a family shelter, we have a street outreach team, community housing supports, and then the supportive housing side of things, which is what I'm working with as well. So within our youth program, we have 3 different properties that we work with. So we have Rise at 149, which is a 21 building apartment building over on the Kings Court area. We have Journey House, which is a 5-bedroom transitional house. And we also have Sutherland, which is a 3-bedroom long-term house. So I'll get into talking about some of the differences of transitional and long-term housing as well. And just to give a little kind of preamble to that, as far as COVID goes, we were kind of deemed essential services. So we're working on site for the duration. Obviously trying to limit as much of the face-to-face contact as possible, but then understanding at the same time we were working with a quite vulnerable clientele that lived on site, right? And especially at Rise at 149, where we have 21 different individuals living on site. As you can imagine, it's important to kind of attend to different issues and making sure that people are well supported with respect to that. So I'm actually at home right now to take this call today. So I'm sorry I haven't had an opportunity to kind of work on the aesthetics of the background there. And I do have a cat and dog running around, so bear with me. They're used to me being home once I'm done for the day. But yeah, as far as making that shift to getting our clients used to some of their other providers and other supports not being available, one of the big things that we tried to focus on was making some of these virtual connections. So making sure that they had access to some sort of technology and that could access different kind of meeting platforms, whether it be Zoom or through phone calls, those different types of things, just to make sure that still people still had those connections. Even if it wasn't necessarily going to be face-to-face, they could still at least have an over the phone or virtual call with some of their supports. Of course, that in its own was challenging, and not having that same sort of face-to-face one-to-one counseling that people were used to could be challenging. So we did try and get creative and meet with our clients as best as possible in outdoor settings or again, through forums, which were comfortable and safe to do so. So Kim had mentioned we do have a video, which was again done a few years back. In this case, it doesn't necessarily get so much into stats and things that are going to be different as per COVID, but more it was some individual kind of conversations with some of the youth that were explaining what led them into their individual situations and how they came to be living with us in supportive housing. So if you folks want to roll the video, we can hear from a few of the youth that have actually all lived in our program and then moved on, and then we'll chat a little bit more afterwards.
I've been in foster care all my life. I was taken away at 1 and then I was given back to my mom and I stayed until I was like 7 years old. And then they took me away and brought me back home again. And then finally they put me in my foster home where I stayed for 7 years. And when I turned 16, things started to go really, really bad with them, and I decided that if things were going to be so negative, that I would leave my home. And you know, I kind of wanted my foster parents to chase after me and be like, oh, we want you back kind of thing, but they never came for me. They just kind of packed my stuff up and sent it.
I was adopted when I was 6 months old, and I was in 12 different foster homes till I was about 16.
My mom, she abused me, and my dad sexually abused me. Like, my mom physically abused me. So I finally gave up getting abused, and I just left home.
Yeah, and I used to live at home. But unfortunately, I was like kept smoking marijuana. I bring it into the house, and I didn't listen to my parents and didn't stop, so they kicked me out. So I had to go and find somewhere else to live. And there was a few days where I was just living at a park.
I spent the next 6 months at a guy's house who I really barely knew. I'd only started dating him and ended up getting arrested. And that's when I was given a choice between going to jail or going to the group home. So I picked the group home.
I ended up living in a tent for 2 years. Just had the clothes on my back and the food bank, which lasted me a week at the moment.
But definitely the hardest part was staying at a park, because you can't really sleep very well at a park, and it's kind of creepy. Well, one day it was really cold, and I just didn't even sleep. I just walked around until the next day. And then, so I was really tired.
Giving up everything. Giving up my family and everybody that I had. To be out on my own was the hardest choice ever.
I left a lot of people behind at the group home that I really, really care about, because, you know, I know what kind of things happen in those places, and it can be really scary if you don't have, you know, your friends and family around you.
When I realized like I was bouncing back and forth from friends' couches to like the youth shelter and then back to friends' couches, I just realized I didn't have an actual home. I was homeless, and I needed a home.
You know, home is where you feel most like want to get comfortable, all that kind of stuff. So like, if you have no home, then like, you're completely alone.
Homeless, you make yourself seem worthless and everything, but it's really, you just don't have a home and you need a home.
Don't feel like you're being put in a position where you're taking from people who are less fortunate, because that's why those services are there to help you. Like, you can't feel like you're going to be judged when you walk up to the food bank, or you're going to be judged if you go to a mental health service in Kingston. You have to realize that these are normal things that normal people need, just you can't get it in the same way as other people. So you have to take those ideas of, oh, I'm taking from somebody less fortunate, and push them away, because that's not true.
And I'm glad I'm now out on my own doing things like working and things like that. It's great.
I work for Ken Kelly's Towing, and I do the odd job for Black Lock's car dealership whenever I get called in.
My dream is to get culinary school over with and start traveling with a cruise line or something crazy like that. Do something exciting. I want to travel and see all the world while doing something that I love.
I want to go to Europe and also want to go to Japan.
There is help available, you just gotta find it.
Your attitude is definitely like part of it. So if you have a negative attitude towards it, then it'll make it a worse time. So you want to have a positive attitude all the time.
Keep your head up. Don't give up.
You can see your true friends and family when something bad happens in your life, but it's not always, it's maybe a bad day, but it's not a bad life. You can change who you are just by simply realizing who you want to be.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So those are actual clients that have lived within our program there, many of which have moved on to live independently and be very successful in many different respects there. And just to touch on the point that Lindsay had made earlier with the idea of it's about empowerment for our clients through the vehicles and different kind of avenues of the work that we do. Very much true in this case. And ultimately our goal is to help build the skills for our clients to the point that they're able to transition to independence and essentially leave the homelessness system behind altogether. And while I'm touching on this thing and some of the work of the other agencies, it's important to note that we are benefactors and our clients are of both the other two agencies that you've heard with, both Dress for Success and Lionhearts, and then of course the United Way. So our clients regularly are accessing meals and going down and accessing food from the Lionhearts program. And then Dress for Success has helped support some of our clients with both job interview prep and then even some dresses for proms going a few years back there as well. And then of course the United Way obviously going a long way in helping provide the staffing that do the work that we do. So every youth that lives within our program is supported by a case manager. So the case manager is responsible for working one-to-one with the client. And essentially what we say is that we're not there to tell the clients what to do, but we're there to help them read and understand the map, right? So as so to speak, pursuing the different goals that they want, we're there to help make those connections, get them reconnected with school, with employment, with volunteering, with mental health and addictions resources, with support for trauma, and anything else that may be kind of relevant to their independent or individual situation there. And so in addition to that, we have a community worker that works in the evenings at our building. Their role is to help build a sense of community within our supportive housing. So they do some meal prep as well as life skills programming. So healthy relationships, budgeting, whatever it is that the youth are interested in. And that's a position which is funded by the United Way, which is fantastic. And in addition, we've recently received some funding to provide overnight staffing. So we now have a 24-hour staffing model at our building, which is fantastic. So if you keep in mind, right, having 21 different individuals of any walk of life living together, but further to that, if you add additional barriers for individuals that may need some of that crisis or counseling support at different hours, now we're able to offer the overnight support, which is fantastic. So just to quickly touch on the difference between the types of housing that we offer, there is transitional housing on one hand, as well as some longer term units. The idea with transitional housing is any of the youth coming into the program come through this transitional program, which lasts for a year. The idea is that in lieu of signing on to a lease, they come up with different goals for themselves. And the idea is that these are based on different therapeutic and recreational goals, again, suited to their individual needs. And our case managers and other staff support help work and help the clients work towards being successful in achieving those goals. So some of the differences with transitional housing, for example, is that you can put, for example, things in place that will help the individual be successful. So you can put curfews in place, you can put guest policies, again, ultimately with the goal of helping them be successful in their housing. And also we do have the ability to end tenancies at our own discretion, although keeping in mind we're in the business of housing people, right? So of course, that's not without kind of a long drawn process. And we have run into situations where people have been asked to leave a transitional program and then are welcomed back down the road. Sometimes that's an opportunity to help encourage some additional mental health or addiction support as needed. But of course, those are things we're always looking to build and help support our youth with when they're living on site as well. With the long-term tenancies, our clients do sign on to a lease agreement, so very similar to what many of us would be signed on to out in the community. And that's a good opportunity to give them the chance to see what it's like to have the same rights and responsibilities as a standard tenant. And then again, ultimately the idea that people are building independent skills and have that support network to the point that our staff can slowly kind of back out and are ensure that they have the support that they're needed to be successful in the future. So one of the bonuses of the line of work that I do is once people are coming into work or live in our supportive housing, they're often leaving homelessness for the last time, and that's ultimately our goal. So very nice to be able to see some of the youth move on to many different successes, some of which have worked closely with the United Way to do things like Toastmasters, right, to work on some of their public speaking, and have gone on to a number of different successes, both through post-secondary working and then just independent living and kind of overcoming some of their own individual barriers.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Danny. Anybody have any questions for Danny? I know you mentioned you didn't have a lot of statistics sort of before and sort of pre-COVID, post-COVID, but just some in general, some of the things that we do know from the data that we've collected through the agencies and through the youth themselves. 89% of the youth that are experiencing homelessness or precarious housing are experiencing mental health issues. 50%, this was an astonishing number, I think, that hit many of us in the face. 50% of youth who are homeless actually come from middle to upper class families. So, you know, it's not about socioeconomics necessarily. That whole idea of family conflict and things like that often lead a youth to leaving home, they happen right across the board. 77% are unemployed. And another sort of big wake-up call in our community is that 50% of the homeless population, both adult and youth, they're female. And so that has given us another area of focus for our community overall to continue to focus on. So just thought
Absolutely, yeah, we've seen a large number of female clients living with us, and you know, especially vulnerable in many situations there. And just to further kind of touch on another program part of our youth services, folks may have heard of the One Roof program, which came into existence a few years ago. And essentially that just came out of the different kind of partnerships that we had in staff wanting to create a one-stop shop for youth where they could have access to all these different resources under one roof, hence the name One Roof. And so we're actually just in the process of moving that location. It's currently on Barry Street and has been for a few years, and now is moving to the old Princess United Street at 484 Albert Street. So looking forward to relocating the services there, and then in addition building 48 more housing opportunities for youth. So essentially looking to eradicate youth homelessness altogether, and within that program looking to kind of try a new take on emergency shelters for youth, and essentially again coming up with a system where people don't spend a prolonged period homeless.
Yeah, that sort of prevention intervention base. Sorry, Jessica, I think I saw you come on screen and then maybe we got talking and you went away again.
I was going to ask, what are the age range? Maybe this is a silly question because I guess you're targeted towards youth, but what's the age range of the clients you serve?
No, that's a fantastic question. I'm sorry I didn't touch on it earlier. We serve between 16 to 24 years old. And then further to that, anyone beyond the age of 24, we do have an adult supportive housing. So for those that their needs may be well suited to continue in a supportive environment, we'll look to make referrals for them to continue in the adult program as well.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions for our guests today? The tour, such as it was. I don't think I at the beginning here, I got introduced. I was actually wanting to give Kara Reynolds an opportunity to speak from United Way. She's been supporting your workplace. And so maybe Kara, you've got a few words to share.
Sure, thanks, Kim. Yeah, so I really did want to thank everybody today for taking the hour out of their busy day, I'm sure, and on a Monday to be able to join us and learn more about the community impact that we have in KFL&A region. And all of the support, most importantly, would not be made possible without different workplaces like yours who run campaigns each year to help support the United Way. So everything that you do and that wonderful Cindy and Jessica have done in organizing these types of things to share this and engage your team if to be able to consider that opportunity to support the United Way in any means you may have able. We really just want to thank you and make sure that you understand that we really do appreciate that. So Cindy has all the details, of course, for if you need any information on how to use the WIN system or United Way at Work. And we are, of course, happy to provide any further information on our programs and impact in the community if you do have further questions after today. So I'll pass it back off to Cindy there and close off today if nobody has anything left they'd like to ask.
So I just want to say a special thank you to Sean, Danny, and Lindsay. We really, really appreciate you guys taking time to share what the work that your organizations do. It really kind of spreads light on kind of how important this workplace campaign is and the work that we're doing for it. And thank you everyone for coming and participating in this as well. I'm happy we were able to still do this event, even though it was virtual. I think this platform worked really well. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you haven't donated and WIN yet, please do. This is a very important year. And if you have any questions about the campaign or kind of about how to donate, please let Jessica or I know. And thank you seriously so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.